Hello everybody, John Fenn here, supernaturalhousechurch.org, talking once again about the discipleship process. Today, the stinky truck solution. What do I mean by that? Well, the scripture I've been thinking on that will help us in our relationships, whether it's be husband, wife, friends, mother, daughter, whatever the case is the way that we think differently. And I want to apply the facts of how we think differently to some scripture. Did you know that in Genesis 5:2, speaking of the Lord, it says, and he called their name Adam in the day in which they were created. See, Eve only received her name after the fact, after the sin had come. But it says in Genesis 5:2, he called their name Adam in the day in which they were created. And ever since he took Adam, put him in a deep sleep and pulled half of him apart, like we've all seen those pictures of, when we were in junior high of the cells and how they divide and everything. The Lord took not only physically, but part of Adam's thought processes, his emotions and everything else, and he caused it so that Adam would think like a waffle square in terms of life, while his wife would think in terms of a pile of spaghetti. And so I want to talk about those thought processes. About 20 years ago, I read a book by Bill Farrell, and it was called Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti. So we'll give credit where credit's due, but that illustration has stuck with me. And I'm going to use an example of two people. I'm going to call them Honey, and I'm going to call them Sweetie. Now, Honey and Sweetie are a married couple and both work. Now, what do I mean by waffle squares? Well, Sweetie goes out and tries to go to work, but her car won't start. She walks through the door and she says, honey, my car won't start. Well, immediately, Honey, the husband, starts thinking in terms of waffle squares. And he puts on his thinking cap. He says, this is a problem to be solved. All right, I need to think, okay, is it the battery? The battery is about 3.5 years old, and that's about the lifespan of a battery in a car. It could be the negative battery cable. Maybe I should look at that. And he's thinking in terms of waffle squares. When she walks through the door, when Sweetie walks through the door and says, honey, my car won't start, she's thinking that she's got this presentation at work. And oh no, the presentation at work is connected to the fact that she's got, whoops, let me find that spaghetti strand. There it is. Tim from Toledo is in, and Phil from Phoenix to see her presentation. And if she's not there to get it, then Connie, her coworker, is going to give it. And Connie didn't work at all on that project, but she's going to take all the credit. And when Rick retires, then he's going to move into the vice president position. And Gary, oops, let me find Gary. Gary Gary the gossip at the break table will just tear her to shreds. And then if Tim from Toledo and Phil from Phoenix don't see a great presentation from her, then she's not going to get the promotion when Rick retires, and it's going to be Connie who's going to go do it. And if she doesn't get the promotion, then Debbie the daughter can't go to the high school because the tuition is more. And if she can't go to school, then she can't pick up Debbie the daughter at 4 o'clock because of her soccer practice, and she has to pick up a meal for the Millers because they're going to eat dinner at the Millers tomorrow night. And so she walks through the door and says, honey, my car won't start. She's thinking of all this spaghetti. And the poor guy is sitting there thinking, well, let's see, it could be the battery. It could be the battery cable. It could be. And when the Lord said he called their name Adam in the day in which they were created, these differences are intended to complement one another, not be a point of contention. And men, you guys have to think in terms of spaghetti. You have to think in terms of spaghetti. So when she walks through the door, let me tell you guys, there is an emotion and a feeling attached to every one of these spaghetti strands. It has to do with self-image, appearance, her presentation, her future, her daughter's future. And she's going to walk through the door and she's going to say, if I don't get to work, our daughter, Debbie, is not going to be able to go to high school next year. And the guy's sitting there still working on the waffle square. Well, let's see, how's this? And he looks at her like, what? How in the world can you tie a dead battery to our daughter not being able to pay her tuition next fall? And so here's what happens. Here's what happens in this. So he's starting to produce ideas. He has waffle square, and so he's thinking, how did he get to work? So then he says, well, honey, we've got Hannah, the homeschooler, next door. Maybe you could borrow her car for a while, and then I'll change out your car battery and all that. And she says, no, we can't take Hannah, the homeschool moms, because Billy, her bratty 6-year-old, has a doctor's appointment, and Oretha, the 12-year-old, has an orthodontist appointment at 1, she told me, so that's not going to work. Now, he's just trying to find solutions, so he feels like she's got a shotgun, and she's just going every time he offers a solution. So then he says, okay, we've got Rex and Renee across the street. Rex and Renee are retired. They only have one car, but surely you could borrow their car a little bit. And she says, you can't borrow Rex and Renee's car because, you know, they had to run Rex into the urgent care a couple times in the last month. And wouldn't you know it, I'd borrow their car for the day, and that would be the day they'd have to call 911. Be all because of me. And then where would we be in this neighborhood, and where would we be? I'd feel so guilty. So then he's thinking, okay, he finally wises up. He says, okay, what's so important about going to work today? And she says, well, of course, I've got this presentation. You see this new outfit I've got on? And I've got Tim from Toledo, and I got Phil from Phoenix, and I've got Connie, the coworker, and I've got Gary, the gossip. And if I don't make it, then we're not going to get the promotion. I'm not going to be able to put Debbie, our daughter, through high school for that extra money I'm going to get for the promotion. And he says, okay, so now he understands it's not just the Waffle Square about getting her car started, but you've got son of Waffle Square. Son of Waffle Square. Now, son of Waffle Square just realizes, oh, it's time to get her to work on time no matter what. So he suggests, I'm going to call Barry, my boss, tell him I'll be a little bit late, and honey, you can take my truck into work. See, this is son of Waffle Square. You can take my truck into work. And she says, I can't take your stinky old truck. It smells like a wet dog. And do you know, honey, why it smells like a wet dog? Because you had a wet dog in it yesterday. The whole thing stinks like a wet dog. And you worked on the car, and it's got a bag of old French fries and hamburger remains in there. Are you kidding me? It smells like a cross between a veterinary clinic and a wash down station and a locker room. And weren't you working on the lawnmower? It's probably covered with grease. Can't you see I've got my whole new dress on for this presentation? I can't take your stinky old truck. I can't even see across the hood. So he's still thinking, okay, how am I going to solve this solution? He says, okay, honey, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put an old blanket across it, and that way you won't get any grease or anything there, or any dog hair or anything else, and I'll wipe down the steering wheel and the steering column and all that, and so you won't get any grease on it, and I'll use air freshener. Would you prefer Spring Meadow, or would you prefer Linen Closet? And she says, Spring Meadow, are you kidding me? The perfume I'm wearing today is called Autumn Fire. If I wore my Autumn Fire and Spring Meadow, it would smell like the forest is on fire. I can't go walking into Tim from Toledo and Phil from Phoenix with the presentation. Who knows what I would smell like? And he says, okay, then how about Linen Closet? We can do Linen Closet. Linen Closet will do it. And she's thinking about it. She says, okay, at least I'm wearing a new dress. And if I smell like a linen closet, that'll complement my Autumn Fire perfume that I'm wearing today. But I can't wear Autumn Fire perfume and Spring Meadow because otherwise I'll smell like Smokey the Bear. So finally the solution is reached. She's going to take the truck. He's going to get a jump start on her car, and she goes off to work. You see, all of this could have been alleviated if he had learned to think like Eve had drawn out of him, like his wife had drawn out of him. And guys, like I said, this is good brother-sister relationships. This is bosses, co-workers, whatever. So if he had learned to think in terms of waffle squares and realized that there is a feeling attached with each spaghetti strand, and he had said, when Sweetie comes through the door and says, honey, my car won't start, he needs to keep what the solution is, that waffle square, in the background running, like you keep a game of solitaire running, or you keep another program on your computer. You keep it running. You keep that motor spinning right there. But when she says, honey, my car won't start, guys, you have to think in terms of what is she feeling. There is an emotion attached to it. So you've got to think immediately, and so you switch over and you say, honey, what does that mean to you today? Do you have anything special going on? Then you would have just gotten past all of Hannah the homeschooler and Rex the retired guy and everything else, and you would have gone straight to the fact that she had a presentation with Tim from Toledo and Phil from Phoenix and Gary the gossip and Connie the coworker, and you could have gotten right to the heart of the matter, and you could have come right to the stinky truck solution. And so you see, guys, the scripture tells us to assign them honor, assign our wives honor, assign that place. Now, I oftentimes hear stuff like this. Oftentimes during the holiday, it's more intense. You'll have some guy in his waffle square. I'm using a different waffle. This is Crazy Larry, everyone's cousin, who doesn't. His waffle square isn't quite right, you know. But let's go back to the guy who's the good husband here, you know. And he's thinking straight. It's just that he doesn't celebrate Christmas because of the pagan holiday, or they don't believe in birthdays or Valentine's Day or the Easter or the 4th of July or whatever it is. But usually some guy will come during the holidays. It's more often, but it's all through the year. I've walked with the Lord 42 years, so I've heard it all. You know, and they've got some little waffle square why they don't celebrate this, Valentine's Day, birthdays, holidays, whatever the case is. And they think, I'm really laying down my life for my wife because I'm letting her put up a manger scene, or I'm going to the church Easter egg hunt for the sake of the grandkids. And he doesn't agree with it, but he's like, I'm going to lower a little drawbridge down for my waffle square, and I'm going to let the peasants come in, and I'm going to participate, and I'm really laying down my life for my wife. It's like, oh, come on, get over it, you ignorant slob. You don't realize that she thinks in terms of spaghetti. And meantime, when you say, I'm laying down my wife by attending this event, she's thinking, my wife warned me not to marry him, but I love him anyway. But he doesn't understand how this reflects on me and my parents and him and his parents and how it is in the neighborhood. And why do we make God out to be the bad guy who can't celebrate a birthday, and all the different things that go on there. And folks, I'm telling you, you have to grow. Men have to grow to think like this. Women have to learn to grow to think like this. Adam was complete, and then the Lord said it's not good that he's alone, and he made Eve out of him. And finally, he recognized her as having half of his emotions and thoughts, and she said, he's got the other half of my emotions and my thought processes. And so waffles and spaghetti are meant to complement one another. So learn to walk in love. Sherry, real quick, see this pillow? This pillow was given to me by some relatives for Christmas, and I was sitting there working in the living room, and Barb walks through a little before Christmas, says, oh, I put your pillow in the closet. It really doesn't go with our holiday decorations. I'll bring it back out after the holidays. And it's like, nobody touches my office, and neither like I don't touch her office. And I said, well, honey, how would you feel? Because she's thinking the spaghetti. She's thinking of how this blue pillow with the sailing motif fits the rest of the house during Christmas time. And I said, well, sweetie, how would you feel if I went and took something off of your piano off one of your shelves and put it in your closet and said it doesn't fit right with what I think the rest of the house is? She immediately stopped and corrected herself and apologized for that. So that's why I got this right back during Christmas. Okay, hey guys, I'm not perfect. I've been married 38 years. I've known my wife or dated 42 years. I've known her since I was 8 years old. I'm still not perfect. But waffles and spaghetti, learn to think like each other and be patient and lay down your lives for one another. All right, I think I'm done here.